and welcome to the Greg Tompsett Football Show. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with producer fantastic Chris Seth. Chris, how we doing?
Doing great. Looking forward to, only like 60 more points scored in this game in the second half, and that should be a lot of fun.
You were joining us at halftime of the Thursday night football matchup between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. And as Chris said, there's 41 points already in the first half. It's 24-17. We were joking pre-show that we're happy for Al Michaels. He has to suffer through so many ugly slogs that are like a sorry excuse for football. So we're happy for Al. You can hear the joy in his voice. I'm glad that he gets to see touchdowns. So we'll jump right into it here. We are going to be sharing for the first time tonight. Many of you know him as the host of the Roundup show with our own David Fox, is Uber Hansen. He writes along with Chris for the Bills Sports Illustrated avenue and is a moderator over at Reddit, and has built up over the last while two different really strong writing pieces that he does with a great preview for the Bills game every week. But he also does one that shares the rooting interests for who Bills fans should root for. So we'll use that as kind of our baseline for the matchups we want to watch as we go through here each week. So you'll be able to find this on Reddit. You can find it in the show description on the Bill Sports Illustrated site, as well as on Twitter as well, just from his feed. So I'm sharing that one here just as a little bit cleaner and easier to read. And the first game that we're going to get into here is one that he has ranked 4 out of 5 in the importance. So obviously, this is an early morning one on Sunday morning. It's going to be our first London matchup here. The Jets are playing technically at the Vikings. The Vikings lose a home game here playing against the Jets. And this is one where the Bills fans get to choose for a loss for their second round pick or a loss for their division game here. So a little bit of silver lining either way that it goes. But obviously, the Bills want to tag every AFC East team they can with a loss here. So let's hope the Vikings keep up their shockingly great start to the season.
Yeah, that defense for both of these teams has been outstanding. And you saw some of the hints of it from the Flores defense last year, but they've even taken it up a notch for everything this year. Their average distance to go as a defense for opponents' offenses on third down is 9.5 yards. So just now I couldn't find how many third downs they've forced, but on average, you've gained a half a yard in those first 2 downs. That's just crazy.
So they have the Vikings as a 2.5 point favorite. I think that's about right. And obviously, a lot of people use Brian Flores as kind of the litmus test of how much respect he has for you as a quarterback in what he sends. So the more blitz he sends, the less he respects you as a quarterback. And I don't want to use the word respect, although it's funny to talk about disrespecting Aaron Rodgers. I support that fully. But I'm curious if kind of testing the lack of mobility and testing the secondary read. Because if you blitz, but you also put a lot of attention on Garrett Wilson, I kind of like to know where Rodgers is going to go with the ball. Yep. So that's what I'm going to be watching in this game. It's an interesting piece because we do get a preview matchup wise, but no team blitzes even close to as much as Brian Flores does in Minnesota. So it's not that much of a litmus test. Obviously, we play them next after Houston. So I'm glad I get to watch it in a single window and watch the game preparation wise to get ready for it, because it's one less rewatch I have to do for getting ready for the matchup show the next week. But that's what I'm going to be watching for is how much does Flores bring, because a lot of the good quarterbacks, he will dial it back a little bit. And I think he might kind of ratchet it up maybe not to the degree he does with rookie quarterbacks and bad quarterbacks, where he literally would just throw the kitchen sink at him. But we've seen it in other good quarterbacks before too. If you remember the Lamar Jackson game, where he just sent the house over and over and over again, daring him to beat him. I'm curious to see what we find in this game. Obviously, Panthers Bears, nothing terribly exciting either for rooting interest or for watching interest. Carolina, Andy Dalton has made them at least functional now as a team, so I respect that. That brings us to our next one, which will clearly be a prominent placement in my quad box, which is Ravens Bengals. And this is one where I agree wholeheartedly with Uber. He has it as a 3 out of 5 rooting for the Bengals. We don't play the Bengals. We just played the Ravens. We lost to the Ravens. So as many losses as we can get on the Ravens record here favors the Bills. And I think that this is a game the Bengals are showing a bit better as they've gone, but man, that defense has been rough. What do you think they can maybe score
I
enough to keep up in this game?
maybe Joe Burrow looks to be getting healthier and healthier with that wrist, and if it is a non-zero chance that Jamar Chase just owns this game.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he has that ability to just simply take over. But yeah, the shine has definitely come off of Big Lou, and
It's
that defense
crazy,
has
crazy.
not been good. I don't know if they've had an exodus of talent, or it's just a collection of guys having down years. But I mean, they're bad in so many different ways. Like their EPA per play as a defense is 30th. Like only the Rams and the Commanders are beneath them in EPA per play surrendered as a defense, and it's hard to get that low. you know.
And I know they like obviously they had some losses. You have like Jesse Bates the year before, and they've had some pieces where they've asked their draft picks to step up into some of those spots, but they've still brought in some, reasonable replacements in what they've done. So I get it that Lou Anarumo doesn't have the same level of talent that he's had in years past to be able to put a defense together, but man, has there been just a huge, huge drop off and having, he still has, both Hubbard and, Trey
Hendrickson.
Hendrickson,
Yeah.
rushing. So I don't know. It's just odd that it's been that dramatic of a drop off because, the Bills have had stretches where it wasn't, as elite as others, but they've never had a stretch where it dropped to 30th and to be
No,
one of the
nothing like
worst
that.
defenses in the league.
Yeah.
So just to have somebody like Lou and the talent that he still have there, it's just shocking to see it at that level.
Yeah. And yeah, it's bad in virtually every way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is never
Shocking.
a good combination.
Yeah. No.
One that I don't know. Like I want to watch this. Like I can't turn away from a car wreck. Like I don't know that I'm gonna. I don't know that I'll have this on the quad box like locked in. But a piece of me is, I just want to laugh at the Dolphins for losing to the Patriots. So for
So good.
like draft pick purposes, I'm going to be rooting for that because I do think Tua will come back and the Dolphins will be not the worst team in football because they have been since they've lost Tua. They're genuinely the worst team in football. They are
And lost
unplayable.
Jalen Phillips today
Oh
to
yeah, Jalen
injury
put to
now.
another
Yeah.
season-long injury for
Yep.
Phil. That's back-to-back
Yeah.
years where now those
And I
things
think
start
that
to
was
add
even
up.
friendly fire. Yeah.
Yeah, like a
Yeah.
guy who's obviously an elite talent, but to lose it like that. So I'm going to be rooting for I know Uber is right strategically. It may make more sense to root for the Dolphins here, but just for the pure Schadenfreude of watching the Patriots hurt their draft pick and the Dolphins having to lose to the Jacoby Brissett led Patriots, that's going to be my rooting interest, even though it may not technically be the best strategic one here. I would be rooting for the Patriots to win just because it's funnier. This is one where I don't know that I'm going to be watching. I know my wife will be watching it upstairs. That's our arrangement of what we normally do. She'll have that up on the main TV up in the living room. I'm going to give Bills fans or anybody listening, this is one where everyone is going to be betting on Washington. Everyone is going to be betting on Washington. All of the people, and it's one. One of my favorite Scott Van Pelt. You got to hold your nose. You just got to hold your nose and take the 3 points with Cleveland, and don't look at it, and don't watch the game,
Yeah.
and just wait
Don't
until
look
the
at
end,
it
and then
again.
look at the
Yeah.
score. I got to tell you. The Commanders are an awesome story. I love Jaden Daniels. Nothing that happens in this game is going to change anything about that. But they've played a lot of cupcake defenses
Yeah.
on their way to these offensive things. And for as ugly as a lot of the things around Cleveland are, they still have that defense. And I
Yeah.
don't think Washington's line has faced
Yeah.
anybody like
This is
Cleveland's
going to be the
defensive
first real
line and
test for
Myles
that offensive
Garrett.
line. Yeah.
And there's a real chance that this is one of those games you're like, oh man, how did Washington lose to Cleveland? So I just got to just take the 3 points, don't watch the game, and look at the score when it's done. And we'll see where it goes. I
It
think
has like 17-14 vibes written all over
yes,
it, you
it's
know?
16, even worse, like
Just
16-13. Just ugly kicking and punting and just, bringing some of those crazy, like every Washington metric is so off the charts right now. I think
yeah.
like I think he might have more scoring drives than incompletions
Yes.
on the season.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the
That
wildest ones
yeah.
I've ever heard. After 4 games, he has led more scoring drives than incomplete passes. That is
His
so absurd.
he has like what is it, like a 72% completion percentage right now, and like barely had like doesn't lead the league in what is the completion percentage over expected. Like
Yeah, yeah. It's
it's like that's
it's
insane.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that again I'll probably check out here or there. Colts Jags. The Jags are oddly the only winless team in the NFL. I don't think the Jags are the worst team in the NFL. So it's funny when you see it like that they're 0-4, and I think it makes sense. They're 0-4 and they're a 3-point favorite over the Colts, and I don't know that I think that's wrong. I think that these are two
No.
pretty similar teams, and the home team probably deserves to be favored a little bit. And we don't know what I don't think Anthony Richardson practiced again today, so it's sounding like Joe Flacco may be the quarterback for the Colts. And I don't, we joke every week on here about all the crazy variants with Anthony Richardson, so it's fun and the long-term potential is there, but maybe some of that stability is a little better. The predictability is a little bit
Yeah.
better, but
I don't want his variance to be whether or not he's on the field.
correct. I want him on
have
the
his
field.
variance be yeah.
That's fun. So again, technically from a rooting interest standpoint, we want the Jags to win because we play them, and that helps our strength of victory, which is a, tertiary tiebreaker down the line, but hey, every little bit can help out. Obviously, Bills Texans. If you didn't have a chance yet, please make sure to check out Aaron and I. We had Brett Coleman on, which is always a ton of fun to have Brett on. He jumped on and previewed Texans Bills with us, and we had a great time there. Raiders Broncos, no real rooting interest here, just kind of the drama around Devontae Adams. I was able to spend some time talking about the financial challenges of adding someone like Devontae Adams and how we would need, historic cheapskate Al Davis to eat money in order for that to happen. So I'm not going to be counting on that. A good game in the 4:00 window, Cards 49ers, because the Cardinals are a very entertaining team. And again, technically from a rooting interest standpoint, we want the Cardinals to win because we beat them. And that's just a extra tiebreaker in that piece of it. A game I probably will be watching is Packers-Rams, just because I like watching Stafford and McVay and what they have put together with all these shorthanded elements. And I got to tell, I think people want to be careful writing off the Rams because they actually are one of the rare teams that are going to benefit from an early bye. They have this game against the Packers and then a bye, and then some of their offensive linemen, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, all start to get back into a chance to be able to come back into play. And I think that this is a team that could be a little sneakier down the stretch than what people expect. Similarly, Giants and Seahawks, again, not a ton of rooting interest. We technically, play the Seahawks coming up, so getting them with a little bit more rooting interest. A crazy historic America's game type showdown, Cowboys at Steelers on Sunday Night Football. I don't know that either team are worthy of the historic fan base reverence that they get held with for this season, but I'm going to be watching because it's still awesome. Seeing those uniforms on the field are going to be a ton of fun. And then the Monday nighter is one.
Develop is awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's for real.
That last week against the Colts was a really good example where in the first half I was like, man, they got to consider playing Russell Wilson. And then in the second half, he was like pretty single-handedly the reason they got back in that game.
Into it. Yeah, it was fun.
And again, obviously there's some rushing because he did run, but like he passed them back into that game. And I respect that. The fact that he obviously had that availability, I think it's going to be tough for Russ to be able to wrestle that job away with what he's
Yep.
been able to do over 4. He's going to need to really, really, kind of throw up on himself to give him an opening for it. The final game, the Monday Nighter, is an interesting one because you have the Saints, who played like the 2 hottest games in the NFL, destroying teams in the first 2 weeks, now lost back-to-back weeks, but both in pretty close fashion, like game-winning field goal type stuff against the Chiefs, who have been looking not that great most of the game, but every single game finding a way to win. So our rooting interest is super clear. Obviously, we want the Saints to win this game. Any loss we can get on the Chiefs for tiebreaker purposes down the line and to set us up better for our head-to-head matchup is good. But what are you going to be watching for in this matchup?
Yeah, I'm watching. Can the Saints offense come back at all? Those first 2 weeks, like you said, they were flying high. They were leading the league at, it was like over 0.6 EPA per play, and they're 21st now in EPA per play over weeks 3 and 4. And like Kansas City's defense, while they're 4-0, the defense has been okay, but it's not as good, nearly as good as it was last year. Is there any shot that they can
Great
go
in
into
big moments,
KC?
but the consistency
Yeah.
hasn't been the same.
Yeah, not like they, Spagnola will Spagnola, but from down to down, they haven't been as good this year as as last year.
Super dependent on the big play from Chris Jones in the moment. Like they are, and he's Chris Jones, so he's come through almost every game with a big play in the big moment. But that's a lot to depend on, even for an elite talent like that, to have that every single game. That's a lot to ask.
Yep.
And now, if he doesn't hold up, you don't have L'Jarius Sneed on the back end. You don't have the same guys on the back end.
Yeah, that pass defense has missed Sneed. McDuffie is still incredible, but that pass defense has missed Sneed. They're down to 20th now in EPA per pass. As
Another fun one I always like to look at when Uber does these setups for it, he will show what the standings would look like if each of the optimal outcomes were to occur, which would put the Bills at second in the AFC, tied with the Chiefs for one of the top 2 seeds. The Bills would have an AFC loss. The Chiefs would have an NFC loss, which is why they would stay first overall. But it's always fun to look at where those come from. So make sure you check out Uber's work. It's awesome. Chris, what's the next thing you have in the queue to be written up?
Yeah, hopefully going to get back into doing a one-play article next week for Sports Illustrated. Did not get it this week because our roof started leaking and we're going camping. And so, yeah, like everybody, all those terrible things that happened with all the flood damage in North Carolina, like it seems silly to be concerned about your roof leaking, but we have a roof leak. So that's something we're dealing with. But,
I'm certainly thankful to hear that you guys didn't see. I saw some of the other places were just devastating. Really, really sad stuff to see. I saw some of the what's the
Asheville,
the Asheville, the Cherokee. What's the
Chimney?
Chimney Top was really
Chimney Rock. Yep.
Chimney Rock was really, really sad to see. And I worked for a long time down in Aiken, South Carolina, right there on the Augusta, Georgia border. And several of the guys, one of our business partners that helps Eric and I, it lives there still now, and said it's the worst they've ever seen it. Like they don't even know what to do. Like you can't get to people to help to even start to do work, and people are trapped in things.
Like
you can't
Asheville's
get out.
Completely isolated. Yeah.
When you have, some of those places were like literally like the road washed out. It's hard to know even how to get somewhere. So really sad. Hearts go out to all the people down there. Hopefully we get them the help that everybody needs. And glad to hear you guys didn't get hit as hard, but hopefully your roof gets in better shape soon. Thank you guys all for listening. We'll continue to do these every week, get you ready for the games, and then join you on Sunday night to be able to break down the recaps of everything that you saw. But on behalf of fantastic producer Chris Seth, I'm Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to the Greg Tompsett Football Show, and we are out.